Hey, how's it going? Vladimir Adonis here. So today I'm going to be talking about how to get prospects to say yes using a four-step micro commitment strategy. Before I get into the strategy itself and how when you're looking for the right type of individuals for your business, you want the right type of individuals to say yes, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory and some context as to how I landed where I'm at today. How did I get started into entrepreneurship and who I am and how I got to where I am at today. So kind of like most people, I once had a job. My most recent job before I got into entrepreneurship is I worked as an executive for a small university. I did that for about 12 years. But 5 years into that role, though, I said to myself, I don't see myself doing this job indefinitely. So then I had to answer a very important question. And that question was, if I don't continue down that path, what am I going to do next? And the way that I answered that question is I said to myself, I want to be an entrepreneur. Now that's pretty vague and that's pretty broad because you can do a million different things as an entrepreneur. So then the second question I had to ask is what type of entrepreneur and or what type of business do I want to go into? And the way that I answered that question is I said to myself, I want to go into a business that's evergreen and a business that's going to be around for a very long time. And back in 2015, the business model that made sense to me was the dating industry because I said to myself, dating sites are not going away anytime soon. So then I decided to hire and pay a programmer close to $30,000 to build me a dating slash a dancing type of a website. About a year and a half from the time that I paid this individual, I was able to launch the site. And when I launched the site, to my surprise, I had a hard time getting members. I had a hard time growing it. And because I paid $30,000 for that project, for me, the stakes were high and I had a lot of skin in that game. So for that reason, I went to work to learn how to do lead generation, marketing, Facebook ads, etc. In about 7 months into that journey, things started to pick up and the site started to grow. But then unfortunately, I learned that I was in violation of copywriting laws. And the reason why I was in violation of copywriting laws is because the members of that site had the ability to upload content, had the ability to upload music videos to be more exact, and I didn't have the right to any of that content. So to avoid legal ramifications, I had to shut down the entire site. By this time, I spent a lot of money on this project, so I was not a happy camper that I had to shut it down. But what I noticed is that in my area, people were hosting workshops and meetup based on their knowledge and based on their expertise. And I said to myself, I wonder what would happen if I started to use the knowledge that I had gained around lead generation and marketing, and if I could start to host workshops for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, I wanted to see if what I had learned around lead generation and marketing, if that could be used for other businesses. Can other businesses benefit from this marketing strategy? And then reason number two, I thought maybe one day I can turn that into a business. So after hosting close to 60 of those workshops, validating my craft and just feeling comfortable with what it is that I was doing, I decided to take my knowledge and my expertise, I turned it into an online coaching program, and that is what allowed me to make that transition from employee to entrepreneurship. So that is essentially, my story. So today, some of the things that I do and the way that I help my clients is I help my clients to take their knowledge and expertise and to turn it into an online coaching program where they can charge between $2,000 to $4,000. I also help them to take that knowledge and take that expertise and take that program that they've just developed and create a marketing process around it. So that way, from a lead generation standpoint and from a marketing standpoint and from a sales standpoint, they don't end up just having a program and or a service that they're out there marketing, but they can't necessarily, they don't have the right process to draw the right people closer to them. So that's my backstory, and that's how I've landed to where I'm at today. All right, so the four-step process that I'm going to be discussing with you is a four-step micro-commitment strategy, so that way you can get more yeses for your products and or your services. All right, so let's go dive into step number one. So step number one, the thing that I'm going to be talking to you about, step number one, is about resources and guides. So let's just say this is a resource page, right? My writing isn't the best, but we're going to say that this is a resource guide, and this is something that's going to be helping people. So that's what we're going to say that this is. I remember when I started to market my dating site, one of the first platforms I went to try and market and promote it was Facebook. I went to Facebook. I said, hey, Facebook, I am willing to pay you And in exchange, I just want you to show my dating sites to as many people as possible. And at that time, Facebook told me no. And the reason why Facebook told me no was because Facebook was only allowed by contract to work with a handful of dating sites. And, obviously my dating site wasn't part of it. So I wasn't allowed to market and or promote my site. So then what I did is I decided to go to a completely different platform for the sole purpose of trying to market and promote my dating site. But from a cost standpoint, it was costing me about $20 to generate a new lead and to try to get a new member. And from a cost standpoint, that wasn't really cost effective for me at that time. So I started to ask myself the question, is there a better way? So at which time, one of the things that I started to observe about myself is that it was very easy for me to say yes to free resources and free guides. So if someone was offering me a free resource and or a free guide that was tailored to help me to solve the problem that I was having, I didn't have a problem giving them my email address and or my phone number. And the other thing that I observe and notice about myself is that for some of those individuals, after I provided them with my contact information and I consumed free information and or free resources, and that free resource was helpful, it wasn't unlikely that I would end up paying those people a lot more money and or end up doing business with them. Not only did I observe and notice that about myself, when I started to learn from these different marketing people, they encouraged me to do the exact same thing for my business. So what I did is I went back to my dating site and I created 2 guides. The first guide and or resource I created is a resource for if an individual want to connect with a male on a dance floor, here's what you need to do. That was the first resource. The second resource I created is if an individual wants to connect with a female on a dance floor, here is what to do. And when I created those 2 resources and those free guides, what I did is I went back to Facebook and I told Facebook, hey, I have these free resources and I have these free guides I'm looking to promote and market on Facebook. And when I said that to them, guess what happened this time around? They told me yes, because I was no longer marketing and promoting a dating site. I was just promoting and marketing a free resource and a free guide. Not only did Facebook tell me yes, the cost for me to acquire a new member went from $20 to $2. So, as you can see, because I led with the free resource and because I led with the free guide, I was able to get people to make a micro yes to me, and some of those micro yeses became bigger yeses. So when I begin the marketing process for myself and or for clients that I work with, one of the main questions we ask is, what type of a resource and or guide can we create that's going to allow the individuals that's designed to do business with you to say yes? Because people will continue to say yes to resource. People will continue to say yes to guides. If you think about YouTube, people go to YouTube and consume so many how-tos, so many resources, and so many guides all of the time. So if you lead with value, if you lead with the resource, and if you lead with the yes, that is the first step in getting what we call a yes from a micro commitment standpoint. It's not the final yes, but a portion of the people who say yes to you at a micro level, yes to getting access to your free resource and or your free guide, some of those individuals will say yes to you to whatever it is that you have to offer on the back end. So that is step number 1, is you want to go ahead and lead with value via a resource and or a guide. So that's step number 1. All right, so now we're moving on to step number 2. Step number 2, the question you want to ask yourself is what problem you're solving. So I'm going to write on here problem, and then let's do a smiley face. The people that you desire to work with has a problem, and when you solve problems, people will make micro commitments with you. Not only micro commitments, people will make bigger commitments with you. During my time working at the university, when I started working at the university, one of the things that I noticed, I worked for a private university. One of the things that I noticed is that people would attend that university and in some cases would pay between 10 to 15 times more money compared to, say, going to a state college and or a local college. We were not the only university in town. We were not the only choice in town, and students had options. So when I first started working there at the university, I could not understand why a student would pay between 10 to 15 times more money to attend the private university compared to the state or community college. But the more I started to work there, the longer I started to work there, I started to analyze and or to try to understand their marketing process. And what I noticed is that they communicated the problem to the prospective student. And when they communicated the problem to the prospective student and they communicated that clearly, the prospective student didn't have an issue paying that amount of money or making that commitment with them. Let me give you an example. So, for example, one of the programs that we had is we had a nursing program. And at the time when I worked there, the students had two choices. They can go to the community college, and at that time, the community college had a waiting period of about 3 years. So in order for the student to get into the nursing program, the student would wait about 3 years. Or if the student wanted or the student can come to the private university and get into the nursing program in about 6 months. So what the private university did, the private university communicated and say, hey, are you a prospective student that's looking to start your nursing program, get into the nursing program, and you are you a prospective student or you a prospective nursing student that would like to get into the nursing program and start in the next 6 months, not only start in the next 6 months, but also complete the program in this amount of time. You see, the students who decided to attend a private university at the time, they can complete the program, they can get into the program in about 6 months. Not only get into the program in about 6 months, they could also complete the program in half the time it would take them to complete to go to the community college. So what the university said is the university did, you can get into the program in 6 months or less, and you can also start to get into the workforce, start making money a lot faster, etc. Now, at the time when I worked for that university, they had been around for 30 years. They had a lot of accolades and so on and so forth, but they didn't necessarily focus on that. Their focus was what is in it for the end user. Because the people who desire to do business with you, the people who desire to take a micro commitment with you, one of the main questions and one of the main things that you have to lead with is what is in it for the end user. For example, I was having a conversation with someone, not too long ago, and they own a search engine optimization company. And basically what a search engine optimization company do is they help people to be found. They help companies to be found on the first page of Google. Well, what I was telling this individual is that people don't necessarily care about search engine optimization. What they do care about is the problem that search engine optimization is going to help them to solve. So in creating marketing process for someone like that, the way that they want to lead is, hey, there's people, hey, business owner, hey, local business owner, there's people going on Google all of the time looking for what it is that you do, looking for your services, so on and so forth. But the problem is that you can't be found. They can't find you. Here's a free resource. Here's a free guide that's going to show you the 4 things that you need to do in order to be found on the first page of Google, so that way you can make more sales, etc. So as you can see, we talked about the problem, not necessarily the service, and not necessarily the company. So you want to make sure that you lead with the problem. So that's step number 2 in the 4-step micro commitment strategy. All right. So step number 3 is traffic and visibility. We all love traffic and we all love visibility. So I'm going to put traffic and then I'll abbreviate visibility. Traffic and visibility. The more traffic, the more visibility we have, the better. I like inbound traffic and inbound visibility as opposed to outbound traffic and outbound visibility. When I worked for the university, I remember that one of the ways that they generated leads is that they work with these different marketing agencies. Marketing agencies will go out on the web and will go out and do whatever it is that they do, and they would obtain leads. So they would find people who are interested in attending the university, have those people complete a short form for more information, and then they would pass that information on to the university. The university in return had a group of individuals, they called them admissions advisors, and those admissions advisors would just simply be responsible for taking that information and reaching out to the prospective student and saying to the prospective student, hey, prospective student, from what I understand, you completed some information online and you had expressed interest in attending and or completing one of our programs. And in the time that I worked there, I watched them do that very, very successfully. and it was a very successful methodology and very successful process. So when it was time for me to generate leads and to try to get clients, I remember trying to replicate that exact same process. I went to a place that I can go and buy, some leads. I went there. I knew that the people who were coming to this company, these people needed social media marketing, lead generation services, etc. The company itself wasn't in a position to fulfill. They were just a middleman. They would connect the person who's looking for the service to the person who could to the person who could deliver the service. I went to one of these places and I bought some leads in an effort to try to replicate the same thing that I saw when I worked at the university. And I remember reaching out to these people and saying, hey, let's just say, John just went to one of these places and they told one day they've indicated to one of these places that, hey, I am John, I have this business, and one of the things I'm looking for is I'm looking for someone to help me from a lead generation standpoint. So I buy these leads, I reach out to these individual, and what I noticed is I noticed a lot of resistance. I noticed that as I was speaking to these individuals who had inquired about marketing services, the resistance level was high, and because they didn't necessarily have that level of because they didn't necessarily know who I was, and I found that I was trying to convince these people that I was the right fit. And for whatever reason, after about 10 or 15 of those calls, it just didn't feel right to me. And I said to myself, I wonder if there's a way to work so that people who I'm reaching out to, people who I'm talking to, have an idea as to what it is that I do, and they are taking the initiative to schedule a time, and they're scheduling a time to speak to me as opposed to me reaching out to them to try to explain what it is that I do. Inbound process whereby the person has consumed some information, the person has made the choice, and the person know that they're going to be speaking with me, or they're scheduling a time to speak with my company and my organization instead of me reaching out to them. So I went through and I created an inbound marketing process whereby someone would see my marketing and they would know that it's me, they would know that it's my company, and based on the thing that they saw, if it's a free resource, if it's content or whatever, that stuff would resonate with them. And after it resonates with them, because I'm talking about the problem that they're having, and after it resonates with them, they decide on their own, and they decide that based on the problem that they're trying to solve, let me go ahead and schedule a time to speak with Vladimir and or to speak with someone on Vladimir's team. And after that happened, I remember, just for the sake of comparison, I remember taking about 10 of those phone calls. And when I took 10 of those phone calls, I ended up getting a 20% conversion rate. So out of the 10 calls that I took, 2 of those people decided to take the next step with me, as opposed to when I was doing the outbound outreach. I took 15 of those calls and nobody took the next step with me. So my goal for traffic and for visibility is I want people to have an idea and understand what it is that I do, and I want them to go through an inbound marketing process whereby they consume content, and after they consume the content, they decide on their own that this service or the thing that this individual does definitely resonates with me. It's a problem that I'm trying to solve, and they're making the decision to schedule a time with me and my company, and not with some other third party service. And when that happened, right, it was a game changer for me. I was able to convert a lot more. So when I work with my clients these days, and when I do this stuff for myself, I always aim to have an inbound marketing process as opposed to an outbound marketing process. All right, cool. So then the final step of this process is follow-up. Now, I know follow-up is not the most sexiest thing in the world, in that you've probably heard the word follow-up over and over again. But let me just tell you a quick story as it relates to follow-up. And you've probably already heard something along this line too, is that the money is in the follow-up. When I was working at the university, when I first started working there, we were what we call a private for-profit university. And as a private for-profit university, the university had limited free money that they can go ahead and pass on to the students. But then at some point, the university became what we call private, not-for-profit university. And when it became a not-for-profit university, they were eligible to receive, let me just grab a sip of water real quick. They were eligible when they became a not-for-profit university, they were eligible for a lot more free money from the state. And that created what we call a win-win type of a situation, because what would happen is that we can take that free money and we can pass it on to our students, and then our students would have to take, with our students, it would allow our students to take out a lot less money in student loans. And I remember when we went through that process, being happy because now all of a sudden we have some money that we can pass on to our students. And one of the main stipulations from the state is that the state told us that, hey, we're going to grant you, thousands and thousands of dollars. And your only requirement is that you use 100% of it. If you don't use 100% of this money that we are given to you, then next year you just won't be eligible for the same amount. So one of our main incentives is that we had to use 100% of the money. And I remember starting a process of when we got this money, reaching out to our students. And one of the first ways we try to reach out to our students is via email. And we sent them something along the lines of, hey, student, congratulations, good news. You are eligible for some free money. All I need you to do is come down to the financial aid office, sign this piece of paper, and in some cases you receive thousands of dollars. And when we sent out that communication, for whatever reason, we didn't get 100% response rate. So then, because we have to be 100% compliant, because we have to use 100% of this money, we went to phase 2 of the outreach process. And phase 2 of the outreach process is that we simply got on the phone. My team and I got on the phone, and we started to reach out to these students and say, hey, student, good news, you're eligible for some free money. All I need you to do is come down to the financial aid office and sign this piece of paper. And in some instances, you're going to receive thousands of dollars for free. We still didn't get 100% compliant. So then we went to the third and the final step of the process. And that was if a student was attending classes on campus, we communicated with the professor to tell the professor, hey, professor, do not let this student into class. Send them down to the financial aid office because they have some obligations they need to meet with the financial aid office. The students who were online, in some cases, we had to block some of those students. So I'm saying all of this to you to say that in some instances, we had to make 5, 6, or 7 different outreaches in order to have our students take advantage of this free money. So if I had to do that when I worked for the university, for people to take advantage of something for free and something that's going to benefit us, I found that that's also true when it comes to your marketing process and when it comes to getting people to say yes to you. So then in every step of the marketing process these days, I have what I call contingencies. What is a contingency? Well, if I'm running a marketing campaign, if I'm running a Facebook ad campaign, and my goal is to have people to download a free resource and a free guide, the very first time they see my ad and they go to my landing page, if I have 100 people that goes to my landing page, not 100% of those people will take action, will go ahead and provide me with their contact information. And that's very normal, and that's human nature. And for that reason, because I know that, I am going to automatically set up a retargeting marketing process to be able to speak to the people who don't take advantage of the next step. If I have 100 people that goes to my page, and that page, the goal of that page is for them to take advantage of something for free, and only say 10 of those people take advantage of the free thing, well, now I have 90 people that I can remarket to and say, and allow them to keep seeing my advertising, because I know that 100% of them won't take the next step. So then that's step number 1. So that's contingency plan number 1. Contingency plan number 2, let's just say that now I have the email address, and the email address delivers on the free thing, on the free content. And let's just say the next step of my marketing process is that I would like for those individuals to get on a call with me. Well, the very first time I ask them to get on a call with me, guess what's going to happen? not 100% of them will take that next step, and not 100% of them will get on a call with me. So because I know that that's human nature, I'm going to create what I call remarketing to those individuals to be able to stay top of mind and to be able to remind those individuals to take the next step. So in your marketing process, you want to make sure that you have contingency plans, and you want to make sure that you have a follow-up process in each of your marketing process. If you, for the lead magnet, for the follow-up, in every step of the process, you want to make sure that you have a contingency plan, and you want to make sure that you follow up, because as it has been stated, the money is in the follow-up. So that's it. Those are the 4 steps. Just a quick recap. Step number 1, you want to lead with resources and or guides, because people will say yes to that. Step number 2, you want to make sure that you are solving a problem in your marketing, even if you are marketing something for free. Step number 3 is traffic and visibility. And then step number 4 is follow-up. Those are the 4 steps that you need to implement in your marketing if you want to be able to get more micro commitments, and those micro commitments are yeses, and those small micro commitments will lead to bigger commitments. That's it. This was Vladimir Adonis, and those are the 4 steps that you can implement to get more leads and to get more clients in your business. That's all I have for you for today. Thank you. Talk to you soon.